All right, it's time for another episode of the PEBAheads, and today you've got myself and Scott from Reno. We're gonna do a little bit of a post-draft recap of our thoughts on the draft and some of the picks we liked, and then maybe a little special section for Lenny at the end. So we'll see if he actually watches this one.
Time will tell.
How you been, Scott?
Good. No complaints. Nice, fun days. Um, I think this draft, as I've said before, you and I've talked about it. I think it was both a deep draft and a talent infused draft. Um, Obviously, time will tell to see how many of these players uh, maintain that level of talent that our scouts are seeing now. I know Dylan talked about it in a previous podcast that if you were to look behind the curtain, there some of these players might not be as they appear. It will take some time for us to get more accurate scouting reports. I believe the game engine has some kind of improved accuracy once they're on your team. So, and I will remind people that at least the last few seasons, right after the draft, the top prospects list gets crazy. It gets real wonky where things start to move and shake. And it takes a couple of sims for it to really settle down and to get a good feel for the prospects that in the league and specifically the prospects on your team.
So you mean to tell me after the sim tonight, when there's the handful of people that normally do, about how great their draft picks were, it might not be as good as
I,
what they
yeah,
think
I'll
they
tell
are?
you this. I will not be feeling too confident that my draft went as well as I thought for at least a few sims.
Fair enough.
And I would say, like, so we did a pre-draft podcast, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And I would say the top five were not much of a surprise for me. Um, I think, as we talked before, I think D'Antonio, um, Big D, was probably the most obvious, clear number one overall selection that we've had in a few drafts. I was not surprised to see Jose Martinez, that well-developed left fielder, go second, and that one of the best potential for hitters was the third, I think, a high school third baseman, Ramos. And then Akita. Again, I love Akita and Chang. The only thing that draws me, causes me a little bit of reservation with the two is the high school pitcher, stigma that goes along with these guys. The theory is that high school pitching is a lot more um, bust friendly, a lot less likely to develop than college hitters, pitchers, or even college hitter, or even high school hitters seem more likely to develop than pitchers. But going through 1 through 5, kind of as it was ticking off, I was like, "Yep, I could see that. Yep, that seems." It wasn't really until Culpepper that I raised an eyebrow. And my only issue with Culpepper is, again, another high schooler, but that one changeup. He might be subject to the curse. I think he's got only 3 pitches, and one of them is a changeup that's currently rated at 1. And we've had this curse of out of the park baseball where an unusually high number of pitchers in the past have not been able to develop their changeup when it was rated so low.
Yeah, it just I was trying to kind of go through and see what starting pitchers went off the board after Culpepper to try to see if it was just
Well, I
a
really like that.
need pick or
I like that Koki, Yokio Koki, right fielder that Bakersfield selected. I like him better than Culpepper. And if I was in that spot, I would have taken that Koki. I think he's got nice talent and he's very, very developed.
yeah, just for me, the starting pitchers that were available after Culpepper are very kind of in that same. They all have their own warts left on them. I know there was like later in the first round, Madison took Quincy Griffin, who was way more developed, so that could have
Yeah,
been a guy that
yeah, I've got
I
that
don't
as
know
an
if you want to take him that early, but
yeah.
he's
I'm not
definitely
sure I would take. I think he was a great pick for Madison there
yeah.
because at that spot, I like his potential is pretty decent, but his development is really high. I did find look. We talked about this on draft day. I know you and I were chatting back and forth. The pitching was going off the board quick. I mean, like super quick. Something I noted that we talked about before is three or more closers were drafted in every single round well, actually, the first 11 rounds, 10 of them had three or more closers drafted in each round. So, like this huge number of closers. And I thought we had a discussion last season about picking a closer, high up. And we had what, like Ben O'Brien goes
Like what, eighth
eighth.
or yeah.
Then I think the best one was this ghost selection at 10 of this June Ichiro Awai because of his five stamina and the possibility of this is a guy like I had him high on my list. This is a guy that could help your team today in the bullpen, and you could possibly add a pitch, and he might be a decent starter. So then you've got like the next closer selected after a Y looks like well, New Jersey selected a middle reliever, Jaden Blankhorn, which I thought was an interesting selection. But then San Juan selected that Youngberry, and then the best closer, in my opinion, in the draft went 28th overall to Toyama, that Jose Villegas,
Yeah, he
and then you
definitely has
got,
the highest ceiling, I think.
and then maybe the highest current actual ratings, non-starter was the last pick by London, that Javier Guerrero. My scout has that guy. He would have been one of my best relievers on my big league team if I would have selected him. Like
Yeah, I think
he would have gone right to a setup role. I don't think he would unseat my closer, but he could in the future. So I mean, there's just a ton of pitching that went off the board quick, leaving some pretty good and interesting hitters, still on the board in the second and third rounds.
yeah, and even like with this closer that San Juan took, Harry Youngberry, he's a guy that right now can come in and hold down a role in the bullpen. Probably looking at San Juan's bullpen outside of their closer, he's probably one of their top setup guys. And I know that their closer is in the last year of his deal, so it would be interesting to see if that was part of the driving factor, taking a closer type in that situation, just as a fallback option if they're not able to re-sign their guy. But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
again, a decent number of hitters who have the expectation of playing in the big leagues now, right? Who could, by their ratings, again, unless our scouts are completely off, could, by their current ratings, play in the big leagues now. You had a decent number of starting pitchers who looked like the minute they're drafted could be solid three, four, or five starters, and then a gigantic number of bullpen arms that would be set up or better, like the day they're drafted.
yeah, and it's interesting too because there felt like there were a few teams in the first round where the draft really fell well to that what they were trying to do. And one of them, we kind of talked about it during the draft a little bit because there was some discussion about pitchers and injuries and what that means. And I have a follow-up question on this for you, but I thought Fargo getting Kane Cusack with the 18th overall pick was
Yeah.
a pretty good value and kind of exactly what Fargo needed because they've got the top end pitching. They've got some power bats. They need some more pitching depth to go with it. So thought Cusack was a good pick there. And he's got three really good pitches and a fourth one that isn't going to be probably won't be anything, but that's okay because he's got three good other ones. So, but my follow-up question was going to be, we talked about like Evan Culpepper. Is it more important to you that you got a pitcher doesn't have an injury history, or is it more important that the pitcher that you're taking has a one changeup that'll never develop? Because like for me, I'm looking at Culpepper and I'm looking at Cusack. Cusack has a future as a starter, and maybe you do get lucky and add a pitch with Culpepper, and it makes him viable as a starter. But you don't really have too many two pitch starting pitchers that have long term success in the league. So
Yeah.
does
For
that
me,
weigh on you, like
yeah,
when you're
for me,
drafting?
the changeup is more concerning if it's one or maybe even two injuries. But like the biggest red flag I had, again, this is because of my history with Spence and other pitchers that I've had in the past. Harry Youngberry, the closer, Cleveland, I think, got him right. Am I not mistaken? You know, I like him, but he has had one, two, three right arm injuries. The first one was 2 weeks, the second one was 3 weeks, and the third one was 4 to 5 weeks. The
San
next
Juan
one's
got
gonna Oh, San Juan. The next one's gonna be 6 to 10 months, and then there's gonna be one after that, I believe. Like a history of the same type of injury, specifically the pitching arm. Yeah, this guy would have been. I had this guy on my list. I love his ratings. His actual ratings are phenomenal. The guys, my Scott's got this guy as a 9 star right now. So I love everything about this guy except for his injury history. It just screams to me that this guy is going to have a 10-month blown out right arm, and it's going to happen more than once.
yeah, it's something that you're gonna have to manage and
Again, I've
manage
been
that
bit by
risk.
it before, and that's what makes me gun shy. And maybe I'm overthinking it, but that's a lot of right arm injuries for me to select him high. Would I have selected him in the later rounds if he was there? Sure. Again, I thought Craig Spence, who I got last season, was the type of guy who would go in a first round, but I got him in the second round I think because of his injury history. And I
Yeah.
think it was much more appropriate to pick him as a second round pick because of his injury history.
Well, I think kind of the discussion about like a Kane Cusack in the draft was pretty, I think, extreme or overblown on what his injury history is because the guy's got, yes, he blew his elbow out as a junior in high school, but the injury that he had earlier this season was a sprained ankle. They are not tied to one another. If you had multiple arm, shoulder injuries back to back, then I would be more concerned about
Yeah,
his
I'm
injury
I would
outlook.
yeah, I would be a little concerned about Kane Cusack's injury history, but not as concerned as Youngberry. Like if you
Oh
look at
yeah,
him,
let's hold. I mean, Cusack's health status right now is okay. Like if he was a high injury risk, it would not say okay.
yeah, I think Cusack was a great selection where he got him.
Let's see what Youngberry
He
risk
got him at
was.
18th overall. I think that's an excellent selection at 18. I
Youngberry's
mean,
also
however,
okay,
with
but
a lot of the hitters that were still on the board, I might have gone hitter. Again, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but the high school hitter that I selected in the first round, I thought was a steal where I got him. I
well,
would have.
I think you should toot your own horn because I think Carlos Stanford hitting wise was probably a top five hitter in this draft. There's not too many hitters with the power that Stanford brings or potentially could bring, not just in the draft pool, but in the league overall. Like there's just not that many 10 or 9 power rated guys. So yeah, I mean, when you're looking at some of the guys that were taken before that, I remember during the draft thinking like, how far is this guy gonna actually fall? Is he actually gonna make it to Scott? Because
Yeah, I know you and I were chatting about it. I know you liked him, and I remember I sent you a text that said, "Dude, I think Hitmen were up," and I'm like, Michael's not a big fan of high school first baseman. I said, I think this guy's going to fall to me. I got to take him because
yeah,
he was the best player on the board in my opinion. But I did not expect him to be there when I was drafting. And I would take him today over Kane Cusack. You know, both high schoolers. I just think that there's less risk with high school hitters than there is with high school pitchers. And while I don't think Cusack's injury history is as bad as Youngberry's, you know, I would have gone. I probably even without an injury history, I would have probably still gone with the hitter. You know, and I get it. Like pitching is really hard to acquire in the draft, right? Like
oh
there's,
yeah,
you know, I think it speaks to how great of an opportunity D'Antonio is for a team because getting good like Akita looks like a great pitcher. He actually looks, if he reaches his potential, like he might be better than D'Antonio. But there's a lot of time between now and when Akita is going to be pitching, you know, effectively. Where it looks like, based on his ratings, his current ratings, D'Antonio looks like he can be a top pitcher in this league right now, and that is rare. So,
yeah.
you know, I don't think I've, you know, again, drafting quality starting pitching that can be an ace for you is not easy to do. It's really hard.
Well, let's play off of that then and go a little bit further into the subsequent picks by New Jersey. They had a lot of them in the draft. What
Yeah,
was your
New
kind of?
Jersey had two first round picks, a second, a third, and I don't think they had a fourth. And then I looked at their fifth round pick. When I look at D'Antonio, speaks for itself. Excellent pick. I would have been surprised and somewhat disappointed if Michael would not have selected him. His next pick had me scratching my head. Now, when I bounce between OSA and my scout, there's a significant difference in this Jaden Blankhorn, a relief pitcher. My scout doesn't like him. Rated highly accurate for whatever it's worth. I think Michael's going to have a much better picture of what this guy is once he gets on his team and rescouts him. Because again, I believe there's a an accuracy boost to players that are in your organization. But my scout did not like him as much as Michael did. It was a head scratcher. But I liked his second round pick, that first baseman Navarro, which I think a high school first baseman, which I was a little bit surprised, but I think I praised him in the Discord channel because I liked him a lot. He was one of the top first basemen.
Yeah, I mean
And I,
that seemed to stand out as maybe a little bit of a change in strategy from what Michael said previously about first baseman.
yeah, but I mean, the guy's good. You know, he's got
Oh yeah, he looks like a
nine
solid
gap
player.
and nine power. You know, that's a middle of the order thumper for you if he develops. I liked his third round pick, this left fielder Sherman Arnold, and I liked his fifth round pick, a second baseman named Joseph Jackson. You know, high school second baseman. So overall, I liked New Jersey's draft with their top five picks, or yeah, five. It's just the Blankhorn thing. I'm going to be keeping an eye on him, you know, to see if my scout was that off because that was a head scratcher.
Yeah, it's what it's not that Blankhorn isn't a good pitcher. It's just that I feel like he probably could have gotten Blankhorn were his second. Like, I mean,
As far as relief pitching, that Villegas was
Carlos
still,
Stanford was available.
yeah,
He
right,
could have taken Stanford and then got Blankhorn with
in
probably
in the
in the
second round. Oh yeah,
second round.
I would have been surprised if he wasn't still on the board in the second round. But you know, I think that Villegas, the closer, was still on the board when the Hitmen selected that. That dude looks again. Scouts differ, right? So he looks significantly better. Yeah, Villegas was taken by Toyama, um, 28th overall. I thought that was an excellent selection. Matter of fact, you know, I've got Toyama down as having one of the best drafts.
Well, I mean, you got it. Maybe it comes down to that Michael felt Blankhorn was more ready to contribute now than waiting a couple seasons for Villegas. And New Jersey's playing well right now and are in a wild card spot. So maybe the thought was you take the guy that's more developed. But yeah,
Well,
it's definitely an
speaking
interesting.
of right now, I looked at the Ghosts' first and second overall selection. I'm not sure I would have taken a Y as high as the Ghosts did, but I can tell you this much: that pitcher is going to be dominant for them in their bullpen right now, as soon as he signs them. And he also got a guy in the second round, a first baseman named Jeffrey Wilson, who has light tower power. Like he's going to mash home runs if he could have both of those. His first and second round players or picks could be on his big league roster immediately and have a significant impact on his winning chances because they are that developed right now.
Yeah, Eli was one of my players that I was very interested to see where they would go. And it wasn't surprising for me to see that Dan took him because he's a guy that you can add a pitch to in the off season and he may become a starter. If not, he's a dominant bullpen option for you. And Jeffrey Wilson, I was when Dan got him, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, like he's another guy that is red had, like you said, tremendous power, but can pretty much come in right now if you really
Yeah,
need him to.
I would have selected him with my second round pick. He was at the top of my list in the second round. So if he was there, I would have taken him over the guy I picked in the second round, who I still think was a pretty great pick in the second round, Steve Patton. But I would have taken Wilson because and I would have put him right on the big league roster. And I think he's got 30 to 40 home run potential in a season, like right now.
Yeah. And I know people will say, "Oh, his avoid K is too low."
I looked at it. So
Does it
we've
really
got
matter
no,
if you hit 40
he's
home
going to strike.
runs?
Yeah, he's going to strike out 200 plus times in a season, but he's still going to mash. He could put up 100 RBIs and 35 home runs and still strike out 300 or 200 times.
Yeah. No, I thought the Ghost had some pretty good picks, especially early as well. Let's see here. I know it's hard to miss when you have two top five picks, but I thought the two players that Okinawa added in the top five were players that they have extremely high ceilings and are kind of fit. One being Ramos fitting the mold of what Okinawa traditionally is put out there of power hitters, and he's going to be a guy that if he develops fully, which I think he will be one of the best power hitters in the league. And then you get Chang back as part of the compensation, trading one of their pitchers off to Palm Springs prior to the draft to get that fifth pick. It's one of those where you you look at it and I think both teams ended up getting what they wanted out of the deal. Chang fits into Okinawa's window better than the starter that they traded to Palm Springs, and then Palm Springs got a pitcher that helps them compete now. So just another example of two teams that there wasn't a clear I have to win this trade type of scenario. Both I think walked away thinking that liking the deal that they got, and I would
So
say
a little
Okinawa
bit of
probably really likes it now.
yeah, a little bit of an aside here. There's this. Have you ever heard this theory called the Pareto improvement theory? So this is something that I employ when it comes to trading and online leagues because you got to keep going back to the well. Like unless you're lucky enough to be in a league where there's a revolving door of GMs for a few teams. You rip somebody off, you're souring that relationship for a long time. So you need to you need to develop relationships with these people. So I think the Pareto improvement is theory is important. And what it basically says is one party is better off without making the other party worse. So again, if you're trying to make a trade within this league, you should try to do this. You want to make one party better off without making the other party worse off. And there are some significant trades that have happened in this league where you cannot say that. There have been
Right.
some ripoffs that have not worked out well. Now, some of that's the benefit of hindsight, fine, but some of it was clear going into it. But and I think this trade that you're talking about with Okinawa is the perfect example. Like they're both getting something out of this. Neither party lost, and they
No,
both gained. They both gained. They
they
just
both
gained
gained. Yeah.
in different ways.
And hopefully, now that the draft's passed, we'll see some more trades like that
Yeah,
leading up to the deadline.
the trade market seemed to tighten heading into this draft, and I think that the overall impression was that most GMs were coveting their draft picks, and and rightly so, I think, because it was a very interesting draft with lots of talent.
Especially on your first couple rounds, you could be drafting guys that help your team today. So after the draft's passed, then maybe you didn't get one of those guys. Maybe you re-examined your situation and we start seeing some moves. I know there's been multiple blocks, updated blocks, I think, that have got posted in the past couple days for teams. So we'll see how that all starts shaking out. But let's see here. We touched on Okinawa, New Jersey.
Let's talk
Kind of,
about Madison. I thought
yeah,
Madison had an interesting draft. They had three. They had multiple first rounders. Was it two or three? They might have had three first rounders. Let me check real quick.
three.
Yeah, so they got. I thought the picks were pretty interesting. John Matthews, second baseman. Um, Quincy Griffin, college starting pitcher. Uh, Dave Fisher, a extremely good gloved defensive shortstop. So, and it looks like all three of them could actually play now in the majors. So, for it's rare to have three first round picks, but it seems like they were focused on near ready or ready now players who could really contribute.
Yeah, and I know when Matthews was selected, I had messaged you that I was like, wow, wasn't that was a guy that I thought that I might have a chance at taking later in the draft, like in with my pick at the back end of the first round. And there was guys that like Brad French, I think I had ranked way higher, and French
I,
went a few picks
yeah, I,
after that. So
yeah, I had him. I had French ranked higher too. The difference being, so like Johnny Matthews, you know, college second baseman, plays second, third, and short, but his range is, you know, I love that he's got an 8 turn double plays again according to my scout. Let's switch to OSA just to see. Yeah, so OSA's got him at 6 range, 6 errors, 6 arm, and 8 turn double play. Respectable, but it's the contact, the BABIP, and the avoid K that jump off the page at me. In that this is a guy who's going to have a very high batting average. His eye is a little low for my taste, but I think it's a quality pick.
yeah,
Could
he's
we could quibble over a second base? Should French have gone before him?
I think
Maybe
it goes back to your point of where the team's at, and
team needs. Yeah,
if the Mults think their window is opening up sooner than later, then maybe they don't want to wait on Brad French to reach his potential. And you have Matthews, who's not that far off of a French. He might be, like you had said, defensively, he's not as good as what French looks like potential wise, but
but
a hell of a good hitter.
My scout's got that Dave Fisher at a 9 range.
Yep.
So it looks like OSA is lower than what my scout is, but that Dave Fisher looks like a guy who's going to be okay with the bat. It's not going to kill you, but we're talking, you know, 700 OPS. You know, he's not going to be outstanding. His bat is not what's going to make him shine. It's his glove.
No, and I mean to your point, the three picks show Ken clearly thinks I'm ready to, or very close to being ready to start turning this thing around because those are three guys that are going to be able to contribute pretty quickly. So,
Yeah, I
and
like that Quincy Griffin. So, you know, he's got outstanding stuff. I'd be a little concerned about the movement and home runs allowed, but good array of well developed pitches. Ooh, got a 2 circle change, but he's got a fastball that's 6, potential curveball that's 9, changeup that's 7, sinker that's 7 stamina. And I would note, interestingly enough, about this Quincy Griffin, he's got a 10 hold runners, which I think is extremely important in light of recent developments.
yeah, I mean it was definitely a good haul. And Ken was drafting. I mean, outside of Matthews, those other two first round picks were in the back third. So to get two players there that can contribute definitely definitely was a big deal. Another one that was drafting kind of in that middle range that I wanted to bring attention to was West Virginia. They were the ones that ended up taking Brad French, but they followed that up with this Carl Flynn, college starting pitcher. Took Michael Griffin, a first baseman, college first baseman, and then another first baseman, Patrick Hancock, in the fourth round. I mean, just going down all the way, they their first five or six picks were pretty well. I think players with potential that were pretty well developed for where they're at. And like we were saying with French earlier, he's got a ways to develop, but he's also more developed than a regular high school player that you would typically see. So
It seemed like that to me that these high school players, well, you had college players like D'Antonio and Martinez who are extremely developed, like their potential and actual are almost identical. And then you had these high schoolers who typically, like when you do the international draft, right, you can get guys who are like 9s and 10s in potential, but they're 1s in
yeah,
actual. That didn't seem to be the case during this draft, where these 18-year-olds, uh, and again, I know the international free agents are 16, 17, but they're really low in their actual ratings typically. These high school players are 18, and there's plenty of them where the gap was significantly smaller than what it has been in the past.
yeah. So I mean, it's one of those where when the pools are, I don't know how to say this without pissing somebody off.
Not me,
Deeper.
Sean.
When the pools are deeper,
At
there
least look,
does
look,
make us like we have more teams to talk about because there's more teams that are getting
yeah,
great picks at a value because of the way the draft's falling. So that's, I mean, it's exciting because one that we haven't touched on is Kentucky, and I don't know if I talked to you too much about them before this, but at 15th overall, they were able to take first baseman Joel Sanders.
yeah, I liked him. I liked him a lot.
Like that
I
guy,
wonder, I wonder if people lowered
he's
their
a first
value.
baseman. We don't like him
Yeah,
because he's a
that's a
first baseman.
question. Because again, I think Carlos, not again, not to you know stay focused on my team, but Carlos Stanford looked like the best first baseman, and he looked like one of the best hitters. But he fell way deep in the draft. But another one, I like that Matt Miller that got him. Oh, Manchester got him in the second round. I thought he was a great second round pick.
Yeah.
Another, high school first baseman, and I don't know if people, get they shy away from them because they're first baseman. I guess Miller can play second, but I
My
wouldn't.
thing is like we repeatedly hear on Discord and other channels about first base and corner outfield being such an easy position to fill. But then you start going team by team and looking at DH, first base, corner outfield spots, especially left field, and it's so easy to fill, but they're not being filled. So like I it was first base was an area I looked at, and every time I was about to pull the trigger, I kept getting the guy that I wanted would get taken. So just kind of pivoted, had to pivot a couple times. But I mean, even going back to Kentucky, like in the second round, this Charles Goodsall, second baseman,
Yeah,
like
I
that
had
was
him
a
on.
solid pick.
Yeah, he was high on my list too.
This left fielder Jose Alvarez, I had him pretty high up on my list. Andy Braithwaite. I mean, Marty Talley, I thought like there's a huge run on closers just throughout the whole entire draft, like you had mentioned, and I thought Marty Talley was a solid pickup there. Like he could Kentucky, if they really wanted to, Talley could be in their bullpen right now. Now, if the debate should be, should they do that, which is probably no, but I mean, my scout has him at a 5.56 with a 7.67 potential. Like it's pretty good relief pitcher there to get at that point. So, and I guess the other team that I had on here it was the Reno Zephyrs. I don't think we talk enough about your team, Scott.
I talk about my team plenty.
But we've hit on like the Carlos Stanford part, but I think the Steve Patton pick, I was surprised that Patton was still there because to me, even if he only plays against right-handed pitching, that's still 70% of the games, and he's not terrible against left-handed pitching. So,
Yeah, very very developed player. Just like Stanford, I was as it was getting closer, I kept saying to myself, am I gonna get this guy? Is he gonna drop to me?" And when he was on the board at that second round pick for me, I was surprised, and it was a definite. There was no doubt in my mind I was going to pick him.
well, and
Um,
his low work ethic rating sure didn't really seem to mess with his college stats at all. And
yeah,
with him
and
being almost
I
fully developed, I
yeah,
don't
I get
really
it.
think.
That's a concern, but let's face it, it's much less of a concern for someone who's developed, right? Like the
Yep,
work ethic is
could really
much
care
more
less at that
concerning.
point.
Yeah, if I've got a high potential and low actual person, I'm very concerned about a low work ethic. Is that going to impact the fact that they never reach their potential? But with Patton, he's almost already there, at a very young age. It looks like he wants to play in the majors. It looks like he could go right there with no minor league time.
Yeah.
I haven't decided if I'm going to do that, but he'll at the lowest he'll start as AAA, and if he hits at AAA, he'll be on the big league roster in a matter of weeks.
Well, I know there were a few other picks, Scott, that I liked with your team, but I know we're trying to cram a lot in today. So let's shift over to Toyoma because there was some interesting picks there that you saw that you liked, not only early in the draft but late too.
Well, specifically later, I thought their sixth round pick was this Yamamoto, the closer, was excellent. I thought Owens at second base at seventh round, and then they got an interesting starting pitcher in the eighth round, Vanderham, and then even their ninth round pick, this third baseman Jeremy King, looks very interesting. So I thought, like, if we're looking at teams that seem to perform exceptionally well in the later rounds, I would put Toyama at the top of my list.
Yeah, that Vanderham was pretty intriguing. Obviously, younger high school pitcher, but you got to like the 10 fastball there with him. So it's going to be interesting to see how much what else develops because the one changeup and then a two sinker. It's gonna. You figure Dylan's gonna add a pitch to that in hopes of getting something to go with that fastball. But even if he's a 10 fastball guy throwing 97 and 99 out of the bullpen. That's still a possible productive player there for Dylan in the eighth round. I did find it interesting with Toyoma that the first three picks in the draft were all closers.
Yeah. Again, it was a deep closer draft, but I'm not sure that I would go with closer in the first three picks. So
I I like the first one.
yeah, I
It's
think it
not
was the
that
best.
yes,
It
and it's
was,
not like Sergio Macias is a bad like play
no.
like relief pitch. He looks good too, but yeah, it's just
Is it a strategy? Is there some undervaluing of bullpen arms that we're seeing here? Because that definitely stood out.
yeah, two isn't something, but three definitely makes you scratch your head a little bit and want to
Yeah,
learn
again,
more.
I may be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure there was debate last season before the draft about whether or not it was a wise strategy to take a closer in the first round, and here we've got, again, at least three closers in every single round, other than I think it was the seventh or something. So like it was quite impressive the amount of relief pitching that was going very early in this draft.
Well, and one thing I've noticed in OOTP, I think it's been in this version, but it seems like the amount of just pure middle relief coated pitchers is lower, and that they've increased the amount of closer coated. I don't know if that is just native to our league and the feeder leagues, or if it's a just OOTP change. But
Yeah, I wonder
yeah,
what's the difference. Like, why did, like the
like
best
why are
relief.
so many closers to begin with? I guess would be one of my questions because they can't be all closers, like real closers. But
Right, because that Javier Guerrero, again, I know we talked about it already, but that was the 32nd pick in the first round by
yeah,
London. Excellent, really bullpen arm. It's just a fantastic arm. Like, why was he not listed as a closer? I mean, it's not because of his talent level, right? He
right.
was just as talented as some of the people who were listed as closers. Matter of fact, will probably be a closer.
I would think you would be it, if not now in the near future. But we want to transition into the fun. I think it's going to be fun. Transition into our fun segment that we're sure that if Lenny actually listens to this one, we might get a rise out of him.
Sounds good.
All right, we're going to call this one and we're going to put a graphic up, but maybe if I find AI, I can get an AI sound effect, but it's going to be what the fuck. And yeah, we this a podcast isn't made for kids because that's one
If
of
your
the
children,
codings.
if you have children around,
Yeah. But it's all in fun. It's not a being mean to anybody, but it's more of a, you know, highlighting a couple draft picks that were just kind of like what was the thought process here? And we were just talking about Toyoma, so I'll kick it off with Toyoma just so we can get them out of the way. But it's fourth round. People will say, "Oh, it's the fourth round. It doesn't matter as much." Well, what we're seeing with these drafts, like we're seeing guys in the ninth round that could be contributors. So this draft pick catcher Jose Rivera, fourth round for Toyoma, is my first WTF moment that I would like to highlight because just looking at the draft at that point, it looked like there were pure catchers left that could catch for you. And to me, Rivera really doesn't have a position. So I don't know if that one stood out to you, Scott, or not. But I know when we talked about it earlier, you had mentioned his high school stats being a really good hitter.
yeah,
But
again, but how valuable are stats at the high school level is a question that is open ended. Um, but yeah, no, it made me say to myself, hmm, well, maybe his scout is seeing something totally different than mine is. I got another one for you. This Kent Maxwell.
Oh
So
yeah,
he's a catcher that went to
Havana.
Havana, like the 36th overall pick. And I look at now, when I clicked the OSA, I'm like, okay, OSA's got him at 5 stars, and but still, like the framing, he's got a 4 framing according to OSA. But I'll click over to my scout, who's got him listed as a 5 contact. This is potential, not actual. He's a high school catcher, so he's got very low actuals. 5 contact, 6 BABIP, 5 avoid K, 4 gap, 5 power, 4 I. Can't run for shit, like ones in like all the running categories. And he's got a 6 blocking, a 4 framing, and a 6 arm. Now, my scout says he's intelligent and well spoken, but that was like for so high. I'm like, okay, my scout must be completely off base on this guy.
Yeah, it just makes it. I don't know. It's like when I
It
saw
makes it.
that one, I was like, did he like click the wrong guy?
Who, Dylan
Hey, no, Havana.
or Havana?
It was just like, okay,
Yeah,
well,
look at some of the players that went after him. That Matt
oh yeah.
Miller
I mean,
of Manchester. Uh, let's see, that Jeffrey Wilson that I was praising that the Ghost got. Even that Bill Ferguson, the closer that Gloucester picked. Um, Carl Flynn, I liked a lot that West Virginia got in their with their second round pick. You know, I, there were a lot of players that went after Kent Maxwell that made me go. I mean, again, I could just go on and on. There were some significantly good looking players, and this is, I guess, the beauty of the different scouts, right? We're not seeing what his scout is seeing, but
to an extent, but it's I don't know. I liked Havana's first pick of Aikida, and I
yeah,
understand trying to get a catcher to go with that, but Kent Maxwell wouldn't have been anywhere on my second round radar, probably let alone
I don't think I
tenth
had him on
round
my list.
radar.
He wasn't on my list at all.
No, and I mean, I'm sure that this individual will probably be listening at this point in the draft, but I had first round pick from our commissioner in Aurora, starting pitcher Mike Johnson, as another WTF moment because, and maybe it was because he was in and out of the draft and not there or whatever. But I mean, there were starting pitchers that went right after Mike Johnson that are way better than Mike Johnson. Like this is it's not saying that Mike Johnson isn't a player that should be drafted, but when you look at I don't know what's the justification for taking Mike Johnson there. I mean,
The stamina is really concerning. Both OSA and my scout have him at a 4.
well, and you got like somebody that was taken right after him. Let me pull him up here. This pitcher, Rob Stewart. Yeah, he's got a 3 hold runner rating, but he's sixes across the board, way more developed college pitcher with 4 pitches that are all pretty good. So just go down, start going down that. You have that uh Romain Alexandre. You got there's I understand wanting to take pitching. Like I get it. But felt like that was a big reach there, and then there were a lot better pitchers available. I mean, shoot, you got Jose Villegas still there. You got like there were guys, lots of good pitchers there, and I don't know. Maybe it was just if it was a list pick, maybe Mike had a bunch of starting pitchers all kind of bumbled together, and that was just what was picked. But I don't know. It was definitely a head scratcher for me.
Same here.
Do you have any other ones you want to highlight before I harp on Lenny?
No, let's do our favorite pastime and beat up on Lenny.
Uh, you know, when Lenny was rushing back and making draft picks from his car, he started the draft off pretty well, I thought, like taking this Yukio Koike, right fielder. I thought that was a solid pick. Then we switched to the second round, and it's like, oh, I just took this solid outfielder. I already have a couple other outfielders that are pretty good. Let's just take another outfielder. Let's not address, I don't know, maybe getting a middle infielder that can field or a center fielder that can run down balls or I don't know.
And so I thought that
It's not
Koike,
that Briggs is a bad player. Briggs is a good
no,
player. It just
I had him high on my list too, but I didn't, my goal was not to draft, multiple corner outfielders, but I still think the best player available is what I do, especially in the early rounds. Having said that, I do think you do have to plan for what your team needs are. And again, I think that Koike is great. Like one of the best hitters in the draft. Um, you could make an argument that from a potential level, he might outperform Martinez in the long run once he fully develops. But we would have to ask Lenny what his strategy was in selecting corner outfielder. Look, Dylan selected.
Did you have Jack Briggs higher than Steve Patton?
No, I did not.
Did you
I
have
had
did you have Jack Briggs higher than Jeffrey Wilson?
no, I did not. Briggs would not have been selected in the second round by me.
I
Uh,
just I know Lenny's got Wes Piper, but whew, can you imagine the power in the middle of the lineup if he would have went you have
with Wilson,
Koike and
yeah,
then
because
Wilson
yeah,
and
Wilson was
then
on the board. You're right. That's a good point. You know, Piper and Wilson in the middle of your batting order is a lot of power. Like that. That's a significant. That's a scary batting order.
and I liked Lenny's fourth round pick. Like this John McDonald, starting pitcher, he's a high school guy, but he looks like there's a little bit of potential there. Like there's things you like. You don't like the one changeup right now, but he's got a 10 fastball and he's got a four sinker and a five splitter. So I mean that plays, he's throwing looks like gonna be close to 100 miles an hour. So there's value there. Like I like that. It's not a total rag on Lenny situation here, but and even this Francisco Carbajal
Oh
or
yeah, I remember him.
Carbajal or
He's the
uh
closer, right?
yeah, he's another closer taken really low control, but sometimes these high stuff closers in short bursts can be effective. And I mean, Lenny could use him right now. I think.
I wouldn't use him as a closer. I don't. I just don't like the control for that. But I think he's perfectly acceptable bullpen arm.
Yeah, there's going to be high variation there. He's going to have items where he strikes out three people, and then there's going to be ones where he blows up a bit. But just I just wish Briggs. It feels just like a high floor, safe type pick, which is fine. But I don't know. I don't think Lenny needed another outfielder. Like he could have added a true power hitter, another one to go with some of the what he's already got there. And you add Koike, you got Piper, and then have Wilson. Like you could have Piper be your four cleanup man and have Wilson have been his third hitter, and that's a pretty deadly lineup. And they've got a bigger park. I get that building teams, people build teams differently and all that, but you're still gonna with that kind of power, it still plays pretty much anywhere. the elite guys are going to get their numbers, and just wish he would have if he wouldn't have gone the power way, maybe go for the starting pitcher or something other than a left fielder because it just when I look at his team, like I like this guy that he's got playing in center field right now, Ito. I like him as a
Not
player, but I don't like him
he,
as a center fielder. And
he needs shortstop defense and center field defense is what his team needs.
like, there's so many catchers that were available. Like I know he likes this Steph Evers guy, but like to me, that guy is not a catcher, and
Even know
or
his name.
not a starting catcher in the league. And there were guys that were pretty well developed catching wise that could have been nice, you know, nice to build off of. But the thing you always have to remind yourself is that everyone builds their teams differently, and that's that. But I mean, the line from dodgeball, that's a bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see if that works out.
It was a very fun and interesting draft.
Yeah, with no technical issues this year. That was good. Went pretty smooth. First round was done pretty quick. But I think it
Yeah.
helps when there's a bunch of good players there. You kind of know who you want. So
Well, I was worried it was going to slow down the draft. That be harder to make the decision once your pick came up because of
yeah,
how deep the draft was. But it did not seem to. I think it went by just about as fast as usual.
yeah. I was just trying to pull up on here and like some of the catchers that were available.
I got a catcher in the fifth round that I was very pleased with. I thought it was pretty deep on catchers.
I think Amsterdam took two in the second round. Let me pull these guys up. See. Yeah, Amsterdam took Leland Palmer and Salvador Bruno. Let's see what they look like.
Yeah, Yuma selected this Jeff Tremblett, who looks like a good hitter, but he does not have the skills to catch, in my opinion. Let's see if OSA's got him better than my scout, but not. I don't. He's got a four catcher arm according to OSA. With all the running that's happening right now, I don't know if you could survive with a forearm.
Now, I just pulled Palmer up and Bruno. Both those guys look pretty good. I remember I had Palmer pretty high on my list for catchers.
I had that Nick Brewer high on my list.
Yeah.
I forget who drafted him, but someone got him. I liked his. I
Yeah,
liked both
somebody
of
got
those.
him. Who could that have been?
Do you remember? I think he went in the third round. No, fourth round. Fourth round.
Fourth
Um,
round.
fourth round, 101st overall pick. Oh, you got him.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you got him. I liked him. He was high on my list.
That's why I thought
So
you were like BSing with
you
me.
were stringing me along.
I thought you were like, oh, I'm just gonna say a guy that he
No,
took, and
I wasn't just picking a random Sean player. I liked
no, I mean I like Brewer a lot. Like
Adam Stokes was another one that went. I liked him. So I had a pretty deep list of catchers
there
that I
wasn't
was.
like that one catcher that's like was far and above everybody, but there were a lot that were in a kind of like group that
Yeah,
were
the
very similar.
serviceable catchers, right?
Yeah, that's just I mean that we can beat a dead horse on it, but that's just where like Bakersfield has pieces, but I'm get I've been worried and I'm continuing like getting more worried that they're not going to have they're not going to have all the pieces they need when they need them, and then you get into that period where players start getting more expensive, and can you keep the guys that you need? Because I mean, if I don't think Lenny's okay with sucking this year and then sucking again next year, and like he wants to be better.
It gets old.
Yeah,
This I know.
and maybe that's why you take a Briggs because they're already developed and you're getting production from them sooner. But I don't know. There'll be a team that'll be interesting to see what they do, how they address some of the holes they have in the offseason because they've got pieces and that
And
Koike
it's been
guy's
eight
gonna be.
seasons since they made the playoffs, Bakersfield. That's a long time. That's probably like close to 4 real years.
Well, what did Lenny say that he joined during COVID? I think was when he said,
Yeah.
and I think he had some success early on, and then all things went downhill. Poor Lenny. The good news though is at least he's got the starting pitcher Amano still under contract for another 3 years after this. So maybe in the next couple of seasons start being a little more competitive and you're able to lock him up for a long time and make him retire as a Bear because that guy's been one of his best players since he's got called up in 2041. Just kind of looking to see salary wise where the money's at.
Yeah, his top three players are Piper, Ito, and that Amano starting pitcher. So he's got a good foundation. He just
Oh yeah.
needs to do some tweaking.
I mean, I know we said it last year about D'Antonio, but I don't think there's any shame for him to not really like you are what you are at this point. If he's able to add one of these top starting pitchers in the next draft that's pretty well developed and partner that with Amano and go with what he's got and make some changes, then it's a quick flip from where he's at now to being in a more competitive spot. So see how that all plays out, but we still got a lot of baseball left in our current season. Months, months of real life time.
Yep. Was it?
I
I think the season ends in May.
think so. Is that the season or
Yeah,
the
I was looking at it the other day.
okay?
I'll pull it up.
And just looking at Lenny's rotation right now, really, if he had a true stud ace, and then you have Amano as your number two, he's got a couple guys that are could be, solid 3, 4, 5 options there. So it's got Denny Jones in the back end covering things. So as much as it's fun to poke fun at Lenny sometimes, the pieces are slowly growing there.
So yeah, the All-Star game is March 19th. The trade deadline is March 30th. Roster expansion April 16th, and the regular season ends on April 30th.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll do a podcast or two between now and then.
I think that's possible.
The massive amount of CP that we get for this, people don't, you know,
Yeah, we do like two of them, and I can turn a former player into a coach.
see, I mean, you too can do podcasts and turn players into coaches. And it would be great if other
It's one of my
people,
favorite things to do. I love it.
I know I've said it before, I'll say it again. It would be great if other people were producing content because I like listening to and reading what people have to say about their teams. And even if it's just on Discord, back and forth things about
Yeah, speaking of
the
which, let's see if
individual.
we can get a guest for the next one. We got to get other opinions on here other than just yours and mine.
Well, our schedule is so challenging to fit around.
We
We're
we
so
decided
difficult to,
we decided to do this one last night. I think I texted. Did I text you first? Say, hey, let's do
but
it, or did you
the joke
texted
about
me?
that though is that when people reach out to us and then they have one time and it's a very specific time and it's like 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. And it's like, really? I don't know if that's what I want to be really doing at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night.
This is a nice after weekday afternoon chat.
Yeah. And I get it. People have work. They can't get out of work. But Scott and I are both pretty flexible on certain nights of the week that open up. And I mean, some of our best ones have been week weekend mornings
Yeah, this we did
and
some Saturday
coffee.
morning ones that I like.
That one's always nice because start your day off right and then talk some people baseball. So I did want to, before we go, since we got a little bit of time, have you been watching any of these road to release OTP 27
Just
videos?
one, just one. It looks okay. We've talked about this before. I'm a little concerned about too much tinkering underneath the hood, the game engine tinkering. I think it'd be better if they did like these new stats are going to be very interesting if they mean something. If they're just cosmetic, it's just going to be annoying to me. But what launch angles and all the new stats that they're putting in there should be interesting.
So far, yeah, I think that'll be, as long as they're enhancing the game and not making it something where I have to use this to now evaluate my player, that maybe your contact rating doesn't mean anything anymore, but your your average bat speed rating or launch angle matters now. And it's like, to me, those things should matter, but that should all kind of flow into your ratings that everyone sees and everyone uses. And for people that want to dive in deeper, they should be able to dive in deeper, but it shouldn't be like a great skill advantage or like changing the way that you have to play the game type of thing.
Yeah, I want them to be transparent in what these new stats do and what they measure. Um, I don't want it to be a big mystery where we're going to have people who don't understand how the game works because they've made so many changes to it.
Yeah. The other thing I've noticed, I saw that they released one today, um, but they're very short. It almost feels like they were just recorded all in like one day and then just broken up into their little pieces. And for the most part, most of the stuff they're talking about is just seems to be fluff, which for people like us that are playing in leagues should be a good thing because hopefully that means the game hasn't changed all that much so that we don't get into situation that we've been in, not just this past version, but the one prior, and you could argue all the way back to 24 with some of the financial changes to the game. But I know I watched one last night. They were talking about that it was such a big deal that the weather, if you're watching the game or playing it live, the weather is shown. So if it says it's lightly raining, it'll be cloudy now. There'll be a rain effect. Or if there's a fog that rolls in, the fog will come in. And I'm just like, who cares?
Well, I read recently that
Like,
weather affects your performance of your players. Pitcher fatigue, injury chances, home runs. The weather is not just cosmetic and out of the park, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and
Considering the
that's
parks
like
that we have, the variance in location. I mean, like, Scotland is not exactly known for their warm, sunny days.
no. My thing was they were acting like it was some monumental achievement. I'm like, we've had weather in video games that are far less technical than this one for since we're like you and I were first starting playing video games.
Right.
Like
I
they
don't. Do
had
you play?
they had
Yeah, I
snow
don't.
in Tech Mobile, so don't act like this is like some big.
Yeah, I don't play out these games hardly ever. So, when a version comes out, I might play out a couple of games, but that's it. I might do it like four times in a version. The bulk of my use, I know there's a very interesting Discord discussion on this, but apparently the online leagues are a small portion of what their customer base is, according to what people are saying. That's pretty much all I use this game for is online leagues.
I know. Think we talked about this, you and I, and we're gonna be running out of time here in about 5 minutes. But I don't know if I told you. Do you remember if I told you how many people bought this game on
Yeah,
Steam?
yeah, we talked about it, and we
Like
and
50,000
yeah,
people.
and I assume that's you think it might be more than half. I think that's probably about half of the total sales, but you thought it might be more.
I think like we're looking at ballpark for the whole entire game, probably around 100,000
Yeah, I would say
licenses.
that's probably about 100,000 sold. Correct.
And I think that's a generous number to them. It could actually be less than that. But my point being is like whatever your market's not that big. Like 100,000 copies is nothing. Like, and my point that I've made is that I think they've failed as a company. They should have figured out how to monetize all areas of the game, not just one little part of it. And Perfect Team is whatever. I tried it recently just to try it again because I hadn't done it for a few years and it's still the same thing. It's just
I've never played it, not once.
it basically it's for the people that like one of the interesting things you can do is you can do a perfect team draft, which is separate from your cards. And that's kind of neat because you can choose like it'll give you players and then you get to choose which ones you want on your team. And everybody gets that same opportunity or whatever. But I think from what I've noticed with that is there's luck with that too because you're not all getting the same pool of players to pick from. So you get Otani, uh, which I did one time, and then some of the Negro League players also where they're really good hitters and can pitch too. Like there's definitely an advantage there that um, just basically on the luck of the draw. But it's interesting. It's just it's another layer to the game, but you can't tell me that there's like more strategy, more competition, more whatever than being in online leagues are the most competitive thing you're going to be able to do.
I would think so. I'm biased. It's the only thing I do. Like I said, when I get the version of the game, I might do one or two seasons with like a Major League Baseball thing, but then I'm bored with it. And I buy this game for the online leagues. I'm in two real online leagues. Been in this one since 2010. So that's what, 16 years in this league. Strangely, my other league, I've been in that online league since the year 2001. So that's a long time.
Well, one of the things they were talking about was improved AI trading between computer
Yeah, I saw that.
and between you and the AI. And I
I'm
laughed
sure that's
because,
yeah, I'm sure that's a good thing to improve. It's just I don't care. It literally has no impact on me.
well, like what is the bar for this? Because what they were saying as improved, I'm like, as a Cardinal fan, I'm looking at this trade that they have up on the screen, and it makes absolutely no sense for the Cardinals to ever do this, especially with where their team is right now and doing a rebuild. But they were trading their center fielder Victor Scott and then another prospect for the Padres left fielder Ramon Laureano. And Laureano is a good player, but there's no reason that the Cardinals would want to add another corner outfielder, get rid of their young, cost-controlled center fielder, and then pay Laureano. Like, what's this? Who's like, are they running this AI through like actual baseball people? Because that's not a trade. No one in baseball would make that trade. Never. Like, that's not even like, so if that's what's improved, I don't think they've really improved it. But
Yeah, again, not my bag, so I don't really care.
yeah,
Hopefully they didn't make drastic. We talked about this before that I don't want drastic changes. There have been drastic game engine changes, and I would like to hope that any game engine changes are going to be minor between 26 and 27. I want some time to understand how the game works so that I'm not blindly playing this game with no understanding of it.
yeah, and that shouldn't be hard to ask. The only thing that they should really be fixing every year are major flaws that they figure out and they address it and move on. It shouldn't, and fingers crossed, we don't have another revamp of the rating system like we
Right.
just went through. But
There are some graphic changes though, right? The interface I saw, which is fine. That doesn't bother me.
no, I mean, what was funny was they were trying to act like the launch angle thing that was, they were trying to insinuate that the graphics are changed, and you can tell by the way that the bat is swung what the launch angle was. And then Will Arnold was like, "No, no, I won't go that far to say that." And I'm like, "Okay, like I don't expect you to. Like I wouldn't want you to be spending your budget on that type of stuff. Like,
Right. We better call it there though, Sean. I think we're gonna
yeah,
run out of time.
all right, I'll talk to you later, Scott.
All right. Good
Been
talk.
good.
Thanks, Sean.
Yep. See ya."
From the lakes of Duluth to Havana's warm breeze, Reno's desert lights glow where the crowd's ever free. Shinsaki's wars with the bats held high. Yuma sandlot dreams touch the wide open sky. Palm Springs breathes the heat where the sun always shines. 32 teams united, crossing every line. From the dirt to the diamond, we're chasing the call. The roar of the fans, yeah, we're giving our all. From the dirt to the diamond, we're chasing the call. The roar of the fans, yeah, we're giving our all. Swing for the stars in the barricade. Global fire, every city's aflame. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the fight. Planetary extreme, we're igniting the night. Oh, 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 better than me, better than me. Oh, 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 we're changing the game. Scottish pipers cheer as the bases are run. New Orleans rhythm swings till the battle is won. Tempe's rolling the dice with the fastball surprise. Toyota's precision lights up in our eyes. Now machines are strong where the dust meets the tree. Florida's golden fields where the champions gleam. From the dirt to the diamond, we're chasing the call. The roar of the fans, yeah, we're giving our all. From the dirt to the diamond, we're chasing the call. The roar of the fans, yeah, we're giving our all. Swing for the stars in the barricade. Global fire, every city's aflame. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the fight. Planetary extreme, we're igniting the night. Oh, 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 better than me, better than me. Oh, 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 we're changing the game. 32 dreams, one world, one fight. From dusk till dawn, we're burning so bright. Every pitch, every hit, every play in the zone. The Planetary Baseball Alliance, we're never alone. From the fields to the stands, hear the planet unite. Beavers a spark and we're taking flight. Swing for the stars in the barricade. Global fire, every city's aflame. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the fight. Planetary extreme, we're igniting the night. Oh, 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 better than game, better than game. Oh, 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 we're changing the game. So raise up your gloves, let the banners fly high. From San Juan to Kalamazoo, we're reaching the sky. Planetary Extreme Baseball Alliance, where the legends are born. Swing for the stars, let the world hear our roar.